The slap echoed through Kim Sung-woo's private office like a gunshot. Jasmine Adams stood before the Korean Mafia boss, her chest heaving, her dark, curvy silhouette framed against the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul's glittering skyline. Her hand still stung from the impact. Kim's head had snapped to the side, and now he turned back slowly, his jaw clenched, a red mark blooming across his pale cheek. "You don't talk about my son like that," Jasmine said, her voice low and dangerous. "Ever." Kim touched his face, his dark eyes narrowing. Behind him, two bodyguards moved forward, hands reaching for concealed weapons. He raised one hand, stopping them cold. "Your son?" Kim's voice dripped with venom and something else, something that flickered behind his cold exterior. "That scrawny kid outside who can't even look a man in the eye? I was simply observing facts." Jasmine's fists clenched. She'd come to this building seeking answers about the threats against her small business, the intimidation tactics that had driven her from her neighborhood. She'd demanded to see whoever ran the operations in this part of the city. She hadn't expected Kim Sung-woo himself, and she certainly hadn't expected him to see her 12-year-old son Elijah in the waiting area and make cruel comments about the boy's shy demeanor. "Facts?" Jasmine stepped closer, fearless despite the armed men flanking Korea's most dangerous crime lord. "You don't know anything about him, about what he's survived, about what I've survived raising him alone." Kim's expression shifted. Something passed across his face. Recognition, maybe, or memory. He studied her with new intensity, his gaze traveling from her defiant eyes to the curve of her jaw, the fullness of her lips. "Alone," he repeated slowly. "How old is the boy?" 12. "Not that it's your business." Kim went very still. The silence stretched between them, heavy and charged. Outside, Seoul's nighttime traffic hummed 20 stories below. Inside this chrome and leather office, the air itself seemed to hold its breath. 12 years, Kim said quietly. He moved to his desk, pulled open a drawer. Jasmine tensed, ready to run, but he didn't draw a weapon. Instead, he extracted a photograph, old, creased, obviously carried and looked at many times. He held it up. Jasmine's blood turned to ice. It was her. 13 years ago, younger, her hair different, her face rounder. She stood outside a nightclub in Busan, laughing at something off camera. She remembered that night, remembered the handsome Korean businessman who'd bought her drinks, who'd spoken perfect English, who'd made her feel seen during her brief teaching stint in South Korea. Remembered the one night they'd spent together before his business associates had shown up and everything had gone dark and dangerous and wrong. Remembered running back to America weeks later, pregnant and terrified. "You," Jasmine whispered. Kim set the photo down carefully. "I looked for you. After that night. After my rivals attacked the club and you disappeared." His voice was controlled, but something raw edged each word. "I thought you died in the crossfire. I ran. I was pregnant. I wasn't going to raise a baby in your world. My world." Kim laughed bitter and sharp. "And yet here you are. In my office. Because my world found you anyway." Jasmine's mind raced. The threats, the vandalism, the men who'd cornered her last week, telling her to leave the neighborhood or face consequences. They'd worked for rival crews, she'd discovered, the same rivals who'd controlled Busan 13 years ago. "The boy," Kim said. "Elijah, let me see him again." "No." Jasmine. Her name on his lips sent a shiver down her spine. "If he's mine, he's mine," she interrupted. "I raised him, I fed him, I protected him. You don't get to claim him because of one night 13 years ago." Kim's jaw worked. The bodyguards shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't how people spoke to Kim Sung-woo. This wasn't how anyone survived speaking to Kim Sung-woo. But Kim just stared at her, and in his eyes, Jasmine saw something she hadn't expected. Regret. "Bring him in," Kim said to one of the guards. "Please." The please surprised everyone. Minutes later, Elijah entered, small for his age, his black hair falling over eyes that were unmistakably Korean in shape, American in expression. He looked at his mother first, checking she was safe, then at Kim with that careful watchfulness that broke Jasmine's heart, the watchfulness of a kid who'd learned too young that the world could turn dangerous without warning. Kim stood frozen. Jasmine watched him see it, the resemblance. The boy had his eyes, his cheekbones, the same slight build Kim must have had before decades of violence had hardened him. "Mom?" Elijah's voice was quiet. "Can we go now?" Kim sat down heavily in his chair. "I mocked my own son." The words hung in the air like smoke. Jasmine felt the ground shift beneath her feet. This wasn't how tonight was supposed to go. She'd come for protection, for answers, maybe for a confrontation with whoever had been making her life hell. She hadn't come to rewrite 13 years of single motherhood. "Elijah," Kim said, and Jasmine heard the effort it took to gentle his voice. "I apologize. I was wrong." Elijah blinked. Okay?" Kim looked at Jasmine. The threats against you. Tell me everything. Jasmine sat across from Kim in his office, Elijah beside her on the leather couch, while the Mafia boss listened with an intensity that made the air feel electric. She laid it out cleanly. No drama, just facts. The way she'd learned to communicate during 12 years of navigating a hostile world as a single black mother in neighborhoods that didn't always welcome her. 3 weeks ago, men had appeared at her small bookstore cafe. Not customers, collectors. They'd implied she owed protection money for operating in their territory. When she'd refused, vandalism started. Broken windows, graffiti, threatening notes in Korean that she'd translated, "Leave or bleed." She'd researched, asked around carefully, discovered the crew worked for the Songpa faction, a rival organization that had been expanding aggressively into Kim's traditional territories. Songpa, Kim repeated, his voice dropping to a register that made his bodyguards straighten. Han Deoksu's people. You know them? I know them. Kim's fingers drummed the desk, a rare tell of agitation. We've been at war for 15 years. It started in Busan, a nightclub, a fight over territory that turned into a massacre. Jasmine's blood chilled. The club where we met? Yes. Kim's eyes found hers. You weren't collateral damage. You were there because I was there. Han's people attacked that night specifically to kill me. You ran because my war nearly killed you. Elijah had been quiet, processing, but now he spoke up. So these people threatening Mom, they're your enemies? Kim nodded. They're using her to get to me. They must have discovered our connection. We don't have a connection, Jasmine said quickly. One night 13 years ago doesn't make a connection. You had my child. Kim's voice was flat, stating fact. In their world, in my world, that's the deepest connection that exists. They'll use you to hurt me. Use him. He looked at Elijah, and Jasmine saw something crack in the Mafia boss's armor. Guilt, bone deep and fresh. I can protect you, Kim continued. Both of you. But you need to trust me. Trust? Jasmine laughed, sharp and humorless. You run a criminal empire. You just admitted you've been in a war for 15 years. You want me to trust that? No. Kim stood, moved to the window. Seoul sprawled beneath them, a city of light and shadow, beauty and violence intertwined. I want you to trust that I'm the only reason you'll survive the next week. Han doesn't make threats. He follows through. If he's decided you're leverage against me, he'll take you. He'll hurt you until I bend. And I won't let that happen. Why? Jasmine's question was simple, direct. You didn't know about Elijah until tonight. We're strangers. Kim turned, and in his face, Jasmine saw something ancient and broken. Because 13 years ago, I let you run into danger. I should have protected you then. I should have found you. I didn't. I've regretted it every day since. He paused. And because he's my son. That matters. In my world, that's everything. Elijah spoke quietly. Do we get a say in this? Both adults looked at him. The boy met his father's eyes without flinching, braver than most grown men who faced Kim Sung-woo. Always, Kim said, this is your life, your choice. Elijah looked at his mother. Jasmine saw the question in his eyes, the fear, but also the intelligence that had always made him seem older than his years. He'd grown up watching her fight their battles. He knew when they were outmatched. Mom can't fight a gang war, Elijah said simply. We need help. Jasmine wanted to argue, wanted to grab her son and run like she had 13 years ago. But she'd learned in 12 years of single motherhood that pride was a luxury she couldn't afford. Survival mattered more. What do you want in return? She asked Kim. Nothing. The answer came quick, firm. I'm fixing my mistake, that's all. Jasmine studied him, using every instinct she'd honed to read people, to sense danger, to know when someone was lying. Kim Sung-woo was a killer, a criminal, a man who'd built an empire on fear and violence. But right now, looking at the son he'd just discovered, he wasn't lying. Okay, Jasmine said, but I'm not hiding. I want to understand what we're facing. I want to help plan. Kim's eyebrow raised slightly. You want to be involved in Mafia strategy? I survived in your world once before. I raised a kid alone while dodging poverty and prejudice and men who thought a single black woman was easy prey. I'm smarter than you think, she leaned forward. And I know things you don't. I know Han's people, their roots, their habits, from 3 weeks of watching them terrorize my neighborhood. I'm an asset, not a victim. Use me or lose me. A smile ghosted across Kim's lips, the first genuine expression she'd seen from him. You're different than I remembered. I had to be. Life made me different. Kim nodded slowly. All right, you're in. But we do this my way with my rules. Step 1. You both move to a safe location tonight. My men will pack your essentials. Step 2. Tomorrow we start planning. Step 3. We end Han Deoksu permanently. Jasmine felt her pulse spike. End. That meant killing. That meant crossing lines she'd avoided her entire life. But looking at Elijah, remembering the fear in his eyes when thugs had cornered them outside their apartment, remembering the sleepless nights, wondering if tomorrow would be the day violence found them, she knew they'd already crossed into a world where normal rules didn't apply. One condition, Jasmine said. Elijah stays completely out of the fighting, protected, hidden, safe. Agreed. Kim turned to one of his bodyguards. Tawan, arrange secure transport, the penthouse suite in the Gangnam safe house. As the guard left to make arrangements, Kim approached Elijah. He crouched down to eye level, a gesture that clearly didn't come naturally to a man used to towering over others. I know this is frightening, Kim said quietly. I know I'm a stranger. But I promise you this, no one will hurt you or your mother while I'm alive. That's a blood oath. Elijah considered this with that too-old wisdom. Why did you say those mean things about me? Before? Kim's jaw tightened. Because I'm a fool. Because I saw a boy who reminded me of myself. Shy, cautious. And I hated it. I've spent 30 years making myself into something hard and fearless, and seeing those qualities I tried to kill in myself reflected in you. He trailed off. That's not your fault. That's mine. I apologize. Apology accepted, Elijah said simply. Then, with devastating directness, are you going to be a good father? The question landed like a punch. Kim actually flinched. Jasmine held her breath. I don't know how to be a father, Kim admitted, but I'll try if you'll let me. Elijah nodded. Okay. But Mom's still the boss of me. Understood. The moment broke when Taewon returned. Cars are ready. 3-vehicle convoy, full security detail. Kim stood. Let's move. The next hour was a blur of motion. Jasmine and Elijah were escorted down private elevators to an underground garage where 3 black SUVs waited, engines running. Armed men in expensive suits surrounded them, professionals who moved with military precision. Jasmine caught Kim's arm before getting into the middle vehicle. This is real, isn't it? This is really happening. Yes. Kim's eyes were dark, unreadable. But you're not alone anymore. Remember that. They drove through Seoul's nighttime streets, the convoy moving smoothly through traffic. Jasmine sat next to Elijah, holding his hand, watching the city blur past. Her son was quiet. I'm processing everything. She knew that look. He'd get through it, analyze it, come out stronger. He always did. The safe house was a luxury penthouse in one of Gangnam's most exclusive buildings. Guards were posted at every entrance. The space itself was stunning. Modern furniture, panoramic windows, a kitchen bigger than her entire apartment had been. Get some rest, Kim said as his men swept the rooms for threats. Tomorrow we start work. Jasmine nodded, exhaustion finally hitting. But before Kim could leave, she stopped him. Thank you, she said quietly, for protecting us, even if this is fixing your mistake, even if this is about guilt. Thank you. Kim studied her for a long moment. It's not just guilt. 13 years ago, you were the last person who looked at me like I was human. Everyone else sees the monster. You saw a man. I never forgot that. He left before she could respond. Jasmine put Elijah to bed in one of the guest rooms, then stood at the windows overlooking Seoul. Her life had shattered and reformed in the space of hours. She'd gone from single mother struggling to survive to the secret baby mama of Korea's most dangerous crime lord, to an active participant in a gang war. She should be terrified. Part of her was. But another part, the part that had learned to fight, to adapt, to survive, was already thinking ahead, already planning. Kim had enemies. Those enemies had threatened her child, and Jasmine Adams had never, not once in 12 brutal years, let anyone hurt her son without consequences. If this was war, she'd learn to fight it. The next morning, Jasmine woke to find a full breakfast spread prepared by Kim's staff and a note. War room, noon. Come ready to work. She dressed practically, jeans, a comfortable shirt, her hair pulled back. Elijah ate cereal while watching her with knowing eyes. You look different, Mom. Different how? Like you're going to fight. Jasmine smiled grimly. Maybe I am. At noon, she entered what the guards called the war room, a secure conference space in the building's sublevels. Kim was there with 5 others. Tawan, the head of security, a woman named Hye Jin, who apparently ran intelligence, 2 enforcers whose names she didn't catch, and an older man introduced only as uncle, who seemed to be Kim's second in command. Maps covered the walls, photographs, documents in Korean and English. Jasmine. Kim gestured to a seat at the table. Tell them what you told me. Everything you've observed about Han's operations. She sat, feeling all eyes on her, assessing, judging. She'd faced this before, being the only black woman in rooms full of men who underestimated her. She'd learned to use it. Han's crew operates out of 3 locations in my neighborhood, Jasmine began, her voice steady. A restaurant that fronts for money laundering, a warehouse that receives shipments every Tuesday and Friday night, and a nightclub where the enforcers gather on weekends. They're disciplined, but cocky. They don't expect resistance from small business owners. She pulled out her phone, showing photos she'd secretly taken. This is their patrol pattern. They hit my block every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Same 2 guys. They arrive at 8 p.m., leave by 8:30. He always park in the alley behind the dry cleaner. Haye Jin leaned forward, impressed. You documented all this? I'm a single mother in a hostile environment. Documentation is survival. I learned that when I had to prove housing discrimination, employment discrimination, every kind of discrimination, evidence matters. Uncle chuckled. She's sharp, Sung-woo. Kim nodded. That's why she's here. What else? Jasmine spent the next 30 minutes walking them through everything. The crew's hierarchy, their communication patterns, their vulnerabilities. She'd absorbed it all instinctively, the way she'd learned to read dangerous situations to keep herself and Elijah safe. When she finished, Kim looked at his team. Assessment? Taiwan spoke first. She's identified weak points we didn't know existed. If the patrol pattern is accurate, we can intercept. It's accurate, Jasmine said firmly. Haye Jin pulled up a digital map. Cross-referencing with our intelligence, Han has 7 major operations in Seoul. The neighborhood fronts are small-scale but symbolic. He's expanding into your territory, Sung-woo, testing your response. Then we respond. Kim's voice was cold. But we do it smart. Han's been waiting for me to retaliate carelessly. Instead, we hit him where it hurts most. The money, Uncle said. Always follow the money. Kim pointed to the map. Han's primary income stream runs through a shipping operation at Incheon Port, container shipments disguised as legitimate imports. Haye Jin, you've been tracking this? For 6 months, we have schedules, manifests, everything. 1 major shipment arrives in 4 days. Street value of the goods, $50 million. Jasmine's eyes widened. You're going to steal it? No. Kim's smile was predatory. We're going to destroy it and make sure Han knows exactly who did it. The room erupted into planning. Jasmine listened, fascinated and horrified, as these criminals laid out an operation with military precision. Guard rotations, entry points, extraction routes, backup plans for the backup plans. What about witnesses? One of the enforcers asked. No civilian casualties, Kim said sharply. We're not Han. We don't terrorize innocents. Interesting distinction, Jasmine thought. Evil with a code. I want to come, she said suddenly. The room went quiet. Kim stared at her. Absolutely not. You said I'm an asset. Use me. As intelligence, not as a field operative. You're not trained for combat. No, but I'm trained for survival. And I think better under pressure than most people. She stood, moving to the map. Besides, I have something you need. What? Legitimacy. I'm American, black, female. I don't fit any profile Han's people are watching for. I can move through that port area without raising flags. I can be your distraction. Kim shook his head. Too dangerous. Everything about this situation is dangerous. At least let me contribute more than information. They stared at each other across the table. Jasmine saw the conflict in Kim's eyes, the need to protect her warring with the strategic advantage she represented. Uncle cleared his throat. She has a point, Sung-woo. A woman checking containers for a non-existent shipment, each claiming administrative confusion that buys us precious minutes during the incursion. If something goes wrong, then I run, Jasmine interrupted. I'm excellent at running. I've been doing it for 13 years. The words landed hard. Kim's jaw tightened. Finally he nodded. Limited role, distraction only. At the first sign of trouble, you extract. Taewon will be your shadow. Agreed. The planning continued for hours. Jasmine absorbed tactics and terminology, asking smart questions that earned grudging respect from Kim's team. She learned about security systems, guard patterns, the specific type of explosives they'd use to destroy the shipment without triggering a fire that could spread to legitimate cargo. By evening, her head swam with information. Kim called a break, sending everyone to eat. He found her alone on the penthouse balcony later, staring out at Seoul's glittering expanse. You don't have to do this, he said quietly. Yes, I do. Jasmine didn't look at him. Those men scared my son. They made him afraid to walk to school. I need to hit back, Kim. I need to show them, show Elijah, that we don't just survive, we fight. Fighting in my world has costs. It changes you. I've already been changed. By poverty, racism, single motherhood, every system designed to break women who look like me. Now she turned to face him. At least this fight has clear enemies and clear goals. That's almost refreshing. Kim moved closer. his presence solid and dangerous. "You're not what I expected." "What did you expect? Some damsel waiting to be saved?" "Maybe." He smiled slightly. Instead, I got a warrior who's been fighting her whole life." Jasmine felt something shift between them. Not romance, she told herself firmly, but recognition. Two survivors acknowledging each other's scars. "Tell me about the night we met," she said. "The truth, not the version I've built in my head." Kim was quiet for a long moment. "I was running from a meeting that went bad. Needed to disappear into normalcy for a few hours. Saw you at that club, laughing with your friends, and you looked so alive, untouched by the violence I lived in. I wanted that, just for one night. You lied about who you were." "Yes, I said I was a businessman. Technically true." His voice carried bitter humor. "I never expected to see you again. Never expected you to matter. But I did." "But you did." He turned to look at her. "You were the last good thing before everything got worse. The war with Han escalated. People died. I became something harder, colder. But I kept your picture. Kept wondering what happened to the American woman who made me feel human." Jasmine's chest tightened. "Don't romanticize it, Kim. We had one night. We barely knew each other." "I know. But sometimes one night is enough to haunt you for 13 years. Before she could respond, Tawan appeared in the doorway. "Sir, we have movement. Han's people are asking questions about the woman and the boy. They know you're involved." Kim's expression shuddered instantly, the vulnerable moment gone. "How much time do we have? Days, maybe hours?" "They're moving faster than expected." "Then we accelerate the timeline." Kim strode inside, all business. "Get everyone back to the war room. But we move on the port tomorrow night instead of waiting." The next 24 hours were chaos. Jasmine barely saw Elijah, who was kept secure and occupied by guards trained in childcare, a surreal detail that somehow made this insane situation real. Kim's organization moved with frightening efficiency, acquiring vehicles, weapons, fake credentials, everything needed for the operation. Jasmine was fitted with an earpiece and a small camera hidden in her jacket. Taiwan drilled her on her cover story. She was a logistics coordinator for a shipping company, tracking a misplaced container, confused but polite. "If anyone gets aggressive, you defer and leave immediately," Taiwan instructed. "Your safety is primary objective." The night of the operation arrived too fast. Jasmine stood in the penthouse, was dressed in business casual clothes that made her look official, her heart hammering. Kim approached, carrying something small. "Tracking device," he explained, attaching it inside her jacket lining. "If anything goes wrong, we'll find you." "Comforting," Jasmine said dryly, but her hands shook slightly. Kim caught them in his, steadying her. "You're brave, braver than most of my men. But bravery and stupidity are close neighbors. If it feels wrong, run." "I will." He held her gaze a moment longer, then released her. "Let's go." The convoy rolled out at 10 p.m. Jasmine rode with Taiwan in a civilian car, while Kim and his strike team followed in separate vehicles. The Incheon port sprawled along the coast, a maze of containers and cranes and warehouses lit by harsh industrial lights. "Remember your route," Taiwan murmured as they approached. "Entry point 3, admin building, second floor. Create confusion for 10 minutes. That's all we need." Jasmine nodded, stepping out of the car on shaking legs. The salt air hit her, mixing with diesel and metal. She walked toward the port entrance, ID badge clipped to her jacket, a perfect forgery that Kim's people had created. The security guard barely glanced at her. "Purpose?" "Container tracking. There's been a mix-up with shipment BX7749. My company needs location verification before morning." He waved her through, bored. Jasmine's pulse spiked. She was in. She made her way to the admin building, passing workers loading and unloading cargo. Everything looked legitimate on the surface. But she'd learned in the war room how much illegal activity hid in plain sight here. Inside the building, she approached a tired-looking clerk. "Excuse me, I'm trying to locate a container. BX7749? The clerk typed slowly. "Not showing in our system." "That's impossible. It arrived 3 days ago from Taipei. Maybe it's coded differently. Let me check the alternative manifests." Perfect. Jasmine glanced at her watch. 5 minutes down. Outside, through the windows, she could see the port operating normally. Somewhere out there, Kim and his team were moving into position. The clerk kept typing. Jasmine asked more questions, created more confusion, played the frustrated but polite professional perfectly. 10 minutes, 15. Then alarms started blaring. The clerk's head snapped up. "What the—" Jasmine's earpiece crackled. "Phase 2 initiated. Extract now. Taiwan is waiting at point beta." She backed toward the door. "I'll come back tomorrow when your system's working." Outside, chaos erupted. Guards ran toward the far end of the port where explosions lit the night sky. Not massive detonations, but controlled bursts designed to destroy cargo without killing people. Kim's team was executing their plan. Jasmine ran, adrenaline flooding her system. She could hear shouting in Korean, see figures moving in the smoke. She found the extraction point, saw Taiwan's car, and saw 3 men blocking her path. Han's men, she realized instantly. They'd been waiting. "American woman," one said in accented English. "You come with us. Boss wants to talk." Jasmine's training evaporated. She turned to run, but they were faster. My hands grabbed her arms. She screamed, fought, but they were professionals, dragging her toward a waiting van. A gunshot cracked the air. One of her captors dropped. Taiwan appeared, weapon drawn, firing with brutal efficiency. The other 2 men scattered, returning fire. Jasmine hit the ground, covering her head, as bullets sparked off metal containers around them. Taiwan grabbed her, hauling her toward the car. "Move!" They ran together. More gunfire. Taiwan grunted, stumbled. Blood bloomed on his shoulder. "I'm fine, go!" he shouted, pushing her into the car. He drove one-handed, grimacing in pain, as pursuers followed. Jasmine looked back, saw muzzle flashes, heard bullets punch into their vehicle. "Kim, we're compromised," Taiwan barked into his radio. "They were waiting for her." Kim's voice came through, sharp with command. "Location? East Service Road, heading to Rendezvous Point 3. I'm coming to you. Hold position at the checkpoint." Taiwan swerved into a narrow area between warehouses, killed the lights. They sat in darkness, his breathing ragged. Jasmine pressed her jacket against his wound, her hands slick with blood. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." "Not your fault. They knew. Someone leaked." His face was pale in the shadows. "Stay quiet." Footsteps approached. Voices speaking Korean. Jasmine held her breath, feeling Taiwan tense beside her. The voices grew closer. Then gunfire erupted again. Different direction. Kim's voice shouting orders. The enemy voices turned to screams. Minutes later, Kim yanked open the car door, his suit torn. Blood, not his, splattered across his shirt. "Move to my vehicle." Now. They transferred Taiwan first. Then Jasmine climbed into Kim's armored SUV. He drove with controlled fury, his team providing cover fire as they escaped the port. "The shipment?" Jasmine asked. "Destroyed. 50 million up in smoke." Kim's eyes were cold. "But they were ready for us. Someone told Han we were coming." The safe house was abandoned. Kim took them to a different location, an industrial building on Seoul's outskirts that his people had converted into a fortress. Medics treated Taiwan while Kim paced like a caged predator. Jasmine sat in a corner, adrenaline crash leaving her shaking. She'd almost been kidnapped. Taiwan had been shot protecting her. This was real. This was deadly. And she'd walked right into it thinking she could play in a world she didn't understand. Kim crouched before her. "Look at me." She met his eyes. "You did well. You executed your role perfectly. The leak wasn't your fault. Taiwan got hurt because of me. Taiwan got hurt because he's a soldier, and that's what soldiers risk. He'd tell you the same." Kim's voice softened marginally. "You held it together under fire. That matters. I was terrified." "Good. Fear keeps you alive. Overconfidence gets you killed." He stood. "But this changes things. Han knows you're important to me now. He'll come harder. So what do? We find the traitor. Then we finish this." Over the next 3 days, Kim's organization turned inward, hunting for the leak. Jasmine watched from the sidelines as interrogations happened. Loyalties were tested. Paranoia spread. She kept Elijah close, reading to him at night. He was trying to maintain some normalcy while armed guards patrolled outside their door. Elijah was quieter than usual. Finally, on the 3rd night, he spoke up. "Mom, are we going to die?" Jasmine's heart broke. "No, baby, no. But those men tried to take you, and Mr. Taiwan got shot. And Kim," he struggled with the word father, "he kills people. That's what the guards say." She pulled him close. "Listen to me. Yes, this is dangerous. Yes, Kim's world is violent. But we're going to survive this because that's what we do. We survive. You and me, we're fighters. Right?" "Right." But his voice was small, uncertain. "And Kim, whatever else he is, he's protecting us. He won't let anything happen to you. Do you trust him?" Did she? Jasmine thought about it honestly. "I trust that he'll keep his word about protecting you. Beyond that, I'm still figuring it out." That night, Kim found the traitor. A young enforcer named Byung-ho, who'd been feeding information to Han for months, promised advancement in the new order once Kim fell. Jasmine was in the command center when they brought Byung-ho in, bloodied and terrified. She should have left, should have spared herself what came next. But she stayed, needing to understand the full reality of the world she'd entered. "Why?" Kim asked simply, standing over the kneeling man. "You're weak," Byung-ho spat. distracted by some foreign woman and a bastard child. Han is the future, you're the past. Kim's expression didn't change. Anything else? They're coming for her, for the boy, tonight. Han doesn't care about your protection. He'll burn everything you love. Kim pulled his weapon in one smooth motion. Jasmine turned away before the shot, but she heard it, heard the body fall, heard the terrible finality. When she looked back, Kim was holstering his gun, his face carved from stone. Get Jasmine and Elijah, we're moving, now. Where? Uncle asked. Nowhere in Seoul is safe if Han's willing to go to war openly. We go to Busan, to the old stronghold. The convoy left within the hour, racing south through the night. Jasmine held Elijah as he slept, watching Korea's landscape blur past. They'd been in Kim's protection for less than a week, and already there'd been gunfights, explosions, and execution. She'd wanted to fight back against the men threatening her. Now she was living the cost of that decision. Kim sat across from her in the vehicle, his face shadowed. I'm sorry, he said quietly. For what? For pulling you deeper into this. You wanted protection. Instead, I've made you a target. You didn't make me anything. Han made me a target when he decided to use me against you. Because of Elijah. Because of our connection. Jasmine looked at her sleeping son. He exists. That's not a mistake, no matter how complicated it makes things. No, Kim agreed. He's not a mistake. They arrived in Busan at dawn, pulling into a compound overlooking the ocean. The building was older than the Seoul locations, more fortress than luxury, with high walls and armed sentries. This is where I started, Kim explained as they entered. 15 years ago, I built my organization from this place. Han attacked it during the nightclub massacre, but we held. It's the strongest position I have. Inside, his Busan lieutenants waited, harder men than the Seoul crew, veterans of the long war with Han. They eyed Jasmine with curiosity and calculation. Kim made brief introductions, then took her to secure quarters. Rest, we'll plan when you're clear-headed. But Jasmine couldn't rest. She stood on a balcony overlooking the sea, remembering 13 years ago when she'd fled this city pregnant and terrified. Full circle, she thought bitterly. Footsteps behind her. Uncle approached, lighting a cigarette. Mind if I join you? It's your building, he chuckled. Sung-woo's building, I just keep it running. He studied her. You're handling this better than expected. What did you expect? Hysterics? Most civilians crack under this pressure, but you're not most civilians. Are you? Jasmine thought about 12 years of fighting welfare offices, racist landlords, employers who thought single black mothers were unreliable. I've had practice with hostile environments. Sung-woo respects that. Respects you. That's rare. He feels guilty. More than guilt. Uncle exhaled smoke. I've known that boy since he was a street kid fighting for scraps. Never seen him care about anyone the way he's suddenly caring about you and the child. It's a weakness Han will exploit. I know. Do you? Because weakness in our world gets people killed. If you care about Sung-woo, if you want him to survive, you need to be strength, not vulnerability. I didn't ask to be part of this. No one asks. Life decides. Uncle stubbed out his cigarette. But you're smart. Use that. Be an asset, not a liability. Help him end Han before Han ends all of you. He left Jasmine alone with her thoughts and the sound of waves crashing below. Be strength, he'd said. Stop being the protected, become the protector. She'd spent years doing exactly that for Elijah. Maybe it was time to extend that protection to include the dangerous man who'd given her that son. Later, in the war room, Kim laid out the situation. Han has mobilized fully. He's declared open war, calling in allies from other cities. We're outnumbered 3-1. Then we don't fight on his terms, Jasmine said. Everyone looked at her. She stood, moving to the map spread across the table. You said the nightclub massacre 15 years ago was Han's attempt to kill you, that it started this war. What if we go back to where it started? Use his own history against him? Kim frowned. I don't follow. The club, does it still exist? Rebuilt. Now it's one of Han's primary operations. Why? Jasmine's mind raced, connecting dots. Because men with egos love symbolism. If you burned down his most symbolic location, the place where he tried and failed to kill you, you'd do more than destroy property. You'd destroy his reputation, show him as weak. Uncle leaned forward. She's right. In our world, respect is currency. If Sung-woo hits the nightclub successfully, Han loses face with his allies. They might reconsider their support. It's a suicide mission, one of the lieutenants said. The club is a fortress. He'll have it heavily guarded now. Unless he thinks you're somewhere else, Jasmine countered. Create a diversion. Make him think you're attacking something he values more. Draw his forces away, and then hit the club when it's vulnerable. Kim studied the maps, his strategic mind engaging. We'd need perfect timing, and a diversion significant enough to pull his best soldiers. What about me? Jasmine said quietly. What about you? I'm what he wants, the leverage against you. If I appeared to be vulnerable, unprotected, Han would send his best people to take me. Absolutely not. Kim's voice was flat, final. Listen to me. We set a trap. Make it look like I've left your protection, like we had a falling out. Let it leak that I'm hiding somewhere with Elijah. Han's people come for me, and instead of a defenseless woman, they find your entire Busan crew waiting. Too risky, Taiwan said, arm still in a sling from the port. If anything goes wrong, I'm the wrong, Jasmine interrupted. If I mess up, if I get scared, your plan collapses. But I won't. I can do this. Kim stood abruptly, walking away from the table. Jasmine followed him out to the hallway. Why are you so determined to be in the line of fire? He demanded. Because I'm tired of being the reason for the danger without being part of the solution. Because those men threaten my son, and I want to be there when they pay for it. Because... She stopped, gathering her thoughts. Because you're trying to fix your mistakes by protecting me. Let me fix my mistake of thinking I could face your world alone by helping you end it. Kim's jaw worked. If you die, then I die fighting instead of hiding. That means something to me, Kim. Let it mean something. He stared at her, and she saw the war in his eyes between the need to protect and the recognition that she was right. Finally, he nodded once, sharp and reluctant. Fine, but we do this my way. Every detail, every precaution, and Elijah stays here, under maximum security. Agreed. They returned to the war room and spent the next 6 hours planning. Jasmine would move to a safe house that was actually a kill box, a building rigged with surveillance and full of hidden shooters. Word would leak through controlled channels that she'd left Kim's protection after discovering the full extent of his violence. Meanwhile, Kim would take his strike team to the nightclub, using the chaos of Han's people descending on Jasmine as cover for their assault. Timing is everything, Uncle emphasized. Jasmine, you need to keep Han's people engaged for at least 30 minutes. That's how long Seungwoo needs to breach the club, plant explosives, and extract. I can do 30 minutes. Taewon, despite his injury, insisted on being part of her security detail. You saved me at the port by drawing fire. I returned the favor. The plan would execute in 2 days. Jasmine spent the time memorizing floor plans, practicing with weapons she hoped she'd never have to use, and trying to be normal for Elijah. Her son knew something was happening. You're going to fight, aren't you? I'm going to help end the danger so we can go home. Do we have a home anymore? The question gutted her. We'll make a new one, somewhere safe, I promise. Will Kim be there? Jasmine hesitated. I don't know, baby. This world he lives in, it's not a world I want for you. But he's my father. Yes, and that's complicated. We'll figure it out when this is over. The night before the operation, Kim found her on the balcony again. It seemed to be becoming their place for difficult conversations. Last chance to back out, he said, not backing out. You're braver than anyone I've ever commanded. I'm not brave, I'm desperate. There's a difference. Kim moved closer, his presence warm against the cool ocean wind. Jasmine, if something goes wrong tomorrow, if I don't make it back, Uncle will see you and Elijah safe. Out of Korea, new identities, everything you need. Nothing's going wrong. But if it does, she turned to face him, then you better make it count. Whatever redemption you're seeking by fixing your mistakes, you better earn it completely. No half measures. He smiled slightly. You're ruthless. I learned from the best. I've been watching you plan a war. They stood in silence, part of the weight of tomorrow pressing down. Finally, Kim spoke. 13 years ago, I let you go without a fight because I thought your life would be better without me in it. I was wrong. Your life was harder. If I'd known about Elijah, if I'd known you needed help, you would have what? Swept in and fixed everything? Kim, I needed to survive on my own. It made me strong enough to stand here now. Still, I wish things had been different. Me too, but they weren't. This is what we have, this moment, this fight. Let's make it matter. He reached out, almost touched her face, then pulled back. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we end this. But neither of them slept much. Jasmine lay awake listening to the ocean, thinking about paths not taken and choices that had led her here. When dawn came, she was ready. The operation began at noon. Jasmine said goodbye to Elijah, holding him tight. Mom, come back, he whispered. Always. We're fighters, remember? She left him with guards she trusted, men who'd sworn oaths to Kim, who treated the boy with unexpected gentleness. Then she got into a civilian car with Taiwan and drove to the kill box. The safe house was a 3-story building in a working-class neighborhood. To anyone watching, it looked abandoned. Inside, 30 of Kim's best soldiers waited in hidden positions. Jasmine entered, her heart hammering. This was real. In the next few hours, people would die. Maybe her. Comms check, Taewon said into his radio. All positions confirmed ready. Now they waited. The leak had been carefully planted 12 hours ago. If Han's intelligence was good, and it was, he'd mobilize fast. 30 minutes passed. An hour. As Jasmine's nerves stretched tight. Then, Taiwan's radio crackled. Movement. 6 vehicles approaching from the east. Heavy numbers. Positions, Taiwan ordered calmly. Jasmine moved to her designated spot, a reinforced room on the second floor where she could be seen through windows, but was actually protected by bulletproof glass and overlapping fields of fire from hidden shooters. She sat at a table, visible, vulnerable-looking. Bait. The vehicles stopped outside. Doors opened. Jasmine counted at least 20 men, all armed, all moving with military precision. "That's Han's personal guard," Taiwan murmured. "He sent his best. Good." The assault came fast. They breached the front door with explosives, poured into the building. Jasmine stood, backing toward the stairs like she was panicking. They saw her through the windows. I shouted, redirected toward her position. Then, Kim's hidden soldiers opened fire. The building erupted into chaos, gunfire from every angle, catching Han's men in a perfect kill box. They'd expected a soft target and found a meat grinder instead. Jasmine dropped to the floor, covering her head as bullets shattered the fake windows around her. The bulletproof glass held, but the sound was deafening. "Kim, primary target engaged," Taiwan reported into his radio. "You're clear for secondary objective." Across the city, Kim's team moved on the nightclub. The firefight in Jasmine's building lasted 8 brutal minutes. When it ended, 12 of Han's men were dead, the rest wounded or surrendered. Jasmine stood on shaking legs, ears ringing. "You okay?" Taiwan asked. She nodded, unable to speak. You see, she'd just been part of an ambush that killed a dozen people. Nothing about this was okay, but it was necessary. She had to believe that. "Kim's team has breached the club," Taiwan reported, listening to his earpiece. "Heavy resistance. They're pushing through." Minutes crawled past. Jasmine listened to the radio chatter, trying to parse the tactical language. It sounded bad. Kim's team was pinned down, taking casualties. "They're trapped on the 3rd floor," Taiwan said grimly. Han had more men there than intel suggested. Can they extract? Not without support, and we're 40 minutes away. Jasmine felt cold dread settle into her stomach. Kim was going to die trying to fix his mistakes, trying to protect her, and she'd be the reason. Then she remembered something Uncle had said. Be strength, not vulnerability. "How many men do we have mobile?" she asked. 10 ready to move. Why? "Because we're not 40 minutes away if we go by boat." She pulled out her phone, showing him maps she'd studied. "There's a marina 5 minutes from here. We take boats up the coast to the club's location, 10 minutes by water. We come in from their blind side while they're focused on Kim's position." Taiwan stared at her. "That's actually brilliant, but you should stay here, safe. I'm coming. I'm the reason this is happening. I'll be part of finishing it. Sung-woo will kill me. Sung-woo will be dead if we don't move now. Your choice." Taiwan cursed in Korean, then barked orders. "All mobile units, vehicles now. We're going maritime." They raced to the marina, commandeered 3 speedboats. Jasmine climbed aboard, B wearing a bulletproof vest that felt impossibly heavy. The boat screamed across the water, spray stinging her face. The nightclub loomed ahead, a massive structure on the waterfront. She could see smoke, hear gunfire. "We land on the service dock," Taiwan shouted over the engine. "Straight up the back stairs. Jasmine, you stay with the rear guard." "No, I'm coming through. I know the layout from the plans. This is insane. This whole thing is insane. At least let's be insane together." They hit the dock hard, soldiers pouring out. Jasmine followed, adrenaline drowning out fear. The back entrance was unguarded. All of Han's men focused on the front assault. They burst through into a service corridor. Ahead, gunfire. They moved fast, Taewon leading, Jasmine in the middle of the group. 3rd floor. Kim's voice on the radio. Strained. "Running out of ammunition. Need immediate support or we're done." 30 seconds, Taewon replied. They hit the main floor where Kim was trapped. His team had taken cover behind overturned furniture, surrounded on 3 sides by Han's forces. The air was thick with gun smoke. Taiwan's group opened fire from behind Han's position. The enemy scattered, caught in crossfire. Kim's team surged forward. In the chaos, Jasmine saw Kim, blood on his face, suit shredded, but alive and fighting with lethal precision. Then she saw Han Deok-soo himself, the rival Mafia boss, raising a weapon toward Kim's exposed back. Jasmine didn't think. She grabbed a fallen soldier's gun, she'd never fired one in her life, and pulled the trigger. The weapon kicked hard, the shot went wide, but it was close enough to make Han flinch. He turned, saw her, his eyes widening in recognition. The American bitch, he snarled in Korean that she somehow understood through context. Kim spun, saw Han, saw Jasmine. For one frozen moment, the entire battle seemed to pause. Then, Jasmine fired again. This shot hit Han in the leg. He went down screaming. Kim moved instantly, closing the distance, his weapon aimed at Han's head. "It's over," Kim said coldly. Han laughed through his pain. "Kill me and my allies burn this entire city. You can't win, Seung-woo. You're already dead." "Maybe, but you first." "Wait," Jasmine said, moving closer despite Taiwan's protests. She looked down at Han. "You threatened my son, sent men to terrify a 12-year-old child because you wanted leverage. You don't get a clean death. You get to live knowing you lost to the woman you underestimated." She looked at Kim. "Don't kill him. Destroy him a different way." Kim understood. He lowered his weapon slightly. "Your operations, your territories, your reputation, all of it ends tonight, but you get to live to watch it crumble. That's a worse punishment than a bullet." Han's face twisted with rage and humiliation. Kim's team planted the explosives while Taiwan's group secured the building. The evacuation was clean, professional. They left Han alive, wounded, stripped of weapons and dignity, for his own people to find. The boats sped away as explosions lit up the night behind them, the nightclub, Han's symbol of power, collapsing into rubble and flame. On the boat, Kim found Jasmine. She was shaking now, the adrenaline crash hitting hard. "You saved my life," he said quietly. "You were trying to fix your mistakes. I was fixing mine, thinking I had to face your world alone instead of accepting help. You're not alone. Not anymore." Their eyes met, and in that moment, Jasmine felt something shift. Not love, that was too simple, too neat, but partnership, recognition, the bond of two people who'd survived hell together. The aftermath was swift and brutal, with Han's flagship operation destroyed and the man himself left alive but broken, his allied crews scattered. The war that had threatened to engulf Seoul ended not with a bang, but with a whimper as opportunistic rivals carved up Han's territories. Kim consolidated his power in the vacuum, but something had changed. Jasmine saw it in the way he conducted business, less ruthless, more strategic, more willing to avoid bloodshed when possible. They returned to Seoul after a week in Busan. Jasmine and Elijah moved into a penthouse in Kim's building, not as prisoners, but as protected family. It was strange, navigating this new reality. Elijah warmed to Kim slowly. They'd have dinners together, Kim teaching the boy Korean, Elijah teaching him how to laugh at silly jokes. Jasmine watched her son gain a father and felt complicated emotions she couldn't name. "What are we?" she asked Kim one night after Elijah was asleep. They sat in his office, the city glittering below them like it had the night she'd slapped him 2 weeks ago that now felt like years. "I don't know," Kim admitted. "Family, certainly. Elijah connects us forever. But beyond that, I'm not staying in your world," Jasmine said firmly. "This was survival, not a life choice. When things are stable, when it's safe, Elijah and I are leaving." "I know." Kim's voice was calm, accepting. "I won't stop you, but I won't disappear from his life either. He needs a father. He needs a father who isn't a criminal. Then I'll change. Step back from operations, transition to legitimate business. I've been planning it for years anyway. Maybe now I have a reason to actually do it." Jasmine studied him. "You'd really walk away from all this power? For him? Yes. For the chance to be something better than what I am? Yes." She wanted to believe him. Part of her did. But she'd learned caution in a hard life. "Show me," she said. "Don't tell me you'll change. Show me." Over the next weeks, Kim did. He began divesting from criminal operations, investing in legitimate businesses. And it wasn't clean. It couldn't be. Not after decades in the underworld. But it was progress. Jasmine found herself drawn into his world in new ways. Not as bait or warrior, but as advisor. Her perspective, outside the Mafia mentality, helped him see opportunities his people missed. She suggested community investments, ways to build loyalty through support rather than fear. "You're good at this," Kim said after she'd helped negotiate a complex property deal. "I had to be. Single mothers don't get second chances. We have to be smart from the start. Teach me that. That's skill." So she did. They'd meet in his office, discussing strategy and transformation, and somewhere in those conversations, Jasmine realized she was seeing the man he might have been if different choices had shaped his life. But reality intruded again. One evening, Kim's head of security burst into the office. "Sir, we have a problem. Han is dead, killed in prison by his own people for his failure." Kim stood. "How does that affect us? His remaining loyalists are blaming you. They're planning a revenge strike. Target the boy." Jasmine's blood froze. "Elijah, he's safe, We've locked down the building, but there's a credible threat of a major attack within days. Kim's face hardened into the dangerous mask Jasmine remembered from their first meeting. Then we end this permanently. No more half measures. Where are they operating from? The security chief laid out intelligence. A warehouse on the city's edge. 12 men, heavily armed, planning a suicide attack on the building. We hit them first, Kim decided. Full force, tonight. I'm coming, Jasmine said. No. This is too dangerous. They're threatening my son. I'm coming. They stared at each other. Finally, Kim nodded. You've earned the right to be there when we end this. The assault was planned quickly. 20 of Kim's best soldiers, full tactical gear, overwhelming force. Jasmine wore a vest, carried a weapon she'd been practicing with. This time she wasn't bait or distraction, she was a full participant. They hit the warehouse at midnight. The attack was surgical and brutal. Kim's team breached from 3 sides, catching Han's loyalists in a perfect ambush. Gunfire lit up the darkness. Jasmine stayed close to Taiwan, moving through the space with more confidence than she'd had at the nightclub. She was learning this terrible dance of violence. Most of Han's men died quickly, but 3 made it to a back room, barricading themselves. They had hostages, dock workers who'd been in the wrong place at the wrong time. They're demanding safe passage, the tactical leader reported, threatening to kill the hostages. Kim considered. We can't let them leave. They'll just regroup and strike again. I can talk to them, Jasmine said. What? They're cornered, desperate. They need a win to feel like this isn't a total loss. Let me offer them something, money, transportation, whatever, to release the hostages. Once the civilians are clear, you can end it however you need. Kim looked skeptical, but Uncle, who'd joined the assault, nodded. It could work. They don't see her as a threat. Might listen. Fine. But first sign of aggression, we go in hard. Jasmine approached the barricaded door. I'm unarmed, she called in English, hoping someone inside understood. I just want to talk. No one else needs to die tonight. Silence. Then a voice in heavily accented English. Send in the woman, alone. Absolutely not, Kim said. It's the only way. Jasmine looked at him. Trust me. I've talked my way out of worse situations. She had angry landlords, aggressive cops, welfare agents looking for reasons to deny her. This was just another negotiation. Kim's jaw clenched, but he stepped back. Jasmine entered the room slowly, hands visible. 3 men, all young, all terrified behind their weapons. 2 hostages zip-tied in the corner, wide-eyed. You're her, one of the gunmen said. The American who destroyed Han. Han destroyed himself through pride and stupidity. I just survived. You turned Kim soft, made him weak. No, I made him smart. There's a difference. She moved carefully, non-threateningly. You're loyal to Han, I respect that. But he's dead. This mission is suicide. Those hostages are innocent. Let them go, and I'll personally guarantee you safe passage out of Korea. Money, documents, everything you need to disappear. Why would you help us? Because I don't want more death. Because those hostages have families, just like I have a son. Because I'm tired of violence solving everything. The gunmen exchanged looks. The youngest one was shaking. How do we know you'll keep your word? You don't. But you know if you kill those hostages, Kim will tear you apart. This is your only chance to live through tonight. Long, tense seconds passed. Finally, the leader lowered his weapon. Get them out. We'll talk terms. Jasmine helped the hostages up. Ma walked them to the door. Kim's team pulled them to safety immediately. She turned back to the gunman. Now, put down your weapons and walk out. Kim's people will escort you to a vehicle. You have my word you'll leave alive. The leader studied her. You're stronger than you look. I've had to be. They surrendered. Kim's team secured them, loaded them into a van that would take them to the port and a boat out of Korea. Kim had agreed to honor Jasmine's promise, though it clearly grated against his instincts. Outside the warehouse, Kim found her. You continue to surprise me. I'm full of surprises. But Jasmine was shaking again, coming down from the adrenaline. Is it over now? Really over. Han's dead. His organization is scattered. The threat to Elijah is neutralized. Yes, it's over. She should have felt relief. But instead she felt exhausted, hollowed out, changed in ways she couldn't yet quantify. They returned to the building. Jasmine went straight to Elijah's room, found him sleeping peacefully, unaware of how close danger had come. She sat beside his bed, watching him breathe, wondering what kind of future she'd secured for him by entering this violent world. Kim found her there an hour later. He sat in the chair across from her. You saved 4 people tonight, he said quietly. Those hostages would be dead if you hadn't negotiated. I also participated in an attack that killed 9 others. They would have killed your son. I know. That's what terrifies me. How easily I justified it. How quickly I've become someone who can accept violence as necessary. Kim was quiet for a long moment. You haven't become that person. You've always been a fighter. You just found a new battlefield. I don't want Elijah to grow up thinking this is normal. That violence is how you solve problems. Then we teach him different. We show him the choices we made were survival, not lifestyle. We give him options we didn't have. Jasmine looked at this man, this dangerous, powerful, damaged man who was her son's father. Can you really walk away from all this? From who you've been for 30 years? I don't know, but I'm going to try. For him. He stopped, seeming to catch himself. For what? For the chance to be someone worthy of the son I didn't know I had. It wasn't a declaration of love. It wasn't a promise of happily ever after. It was just honest. And maybe that was enough. The next weeks brought massive changes. Kim formally announced his retirement from active leadership, promoting Uncle to run day-to-day operations while he transitioned to legitimate business. Not everyone accepted it. There were challenges, some violent, but Kim handled them with the same ruthless efficiency he had always employed. Jasmine started rebuilding her life. Her bookstore cafe had been destroyed during the early threats, but Kim helped her open a new one, bigger, better, in a safe neighborhood. She insisted on paying him back with profit percentages, maintaining her independence even as she accepted help. Elijah thrived. With the threats gone, he became more open, more confident. He split time between Jasmine's apartment and Kim's penthouse, building a relationship with his father that was awkward and genuine and growing. One evening, 3 months after the warehouse incident, Jasmine and Kim met on that same balcony where they had had so many conversations. "I'm leaving Seoul," Jasmine said without preamble. Kim didn't react visibly, but she saw the tension in his shoulders. "When?" 2 months. My visa is expiring, and I think it's time. Elijah and I need normalcy. America, regular schools, a life without armed guards. I understand. But, she turned to face him, I'm not cutting you out. Elijah needs his father. We'll visit. You'll visit us. We'll figure out custody and co-parenting and all the complicated things modern families navigate. Modern families usually don't involve international mafia connections. We'll be a first, she smiled slightly. You're changing, Kim. I've watched you do it. The man who mocked my son doesn't exist anymore. You're becoming someone else. Someone better? Someone more complete. The violence is still there. I'm not naive enough to think it's gone. But it's not all you are anymore. Kim moved closer, his expression serious. These 3 months with you and Elijah, they've been the best of my life, even with the fighting, the danger, the fear. Because for the first time since I was a child, I've had something worth protecting that wasn't territory or reputation. Jasmine felt her heart squeeze. Kim, I'm not asking you to stay. I'm not asking you to love me or build a life here. I'm just saying thank you for slapping sense into me that first night, for being brave when I needed partners instead of followers, for giving me a son I didn't know I was missing, for showing me I could be more than what I'd become. She reached out, untook his hand. You're welcome, and thank you for protecting us, for changing, for trying. They stood together in the Seoul night, two people from different worlds who'd collided violently and emerged changed. Not in love, that was too simple for what they were, but connected, bonded by blood and battle in the strange alchemy of survival. I have something for you, Kim said. He pulled out a small box. Jasmine opened it to find a key. What's this? An apartment in New York. Safe, secure, already paid for. For you and Elijah. No strings. Just a place to land when you go home. She should refuse. Should maintain her independence completely. But looking at this gesture, practical, generous, asking nothing in return, she saw it for what it was. A father ensuring his son had stability. Thank you, she said simply. There's more. Education fund for Elijah, medical coverage, security detail. Discreet. Nothing that will scare him. Just protection in case any of my past comes looking. You've thought of everything. I've had 3 months to plan. I'm good at planning. He smiled slightly. What I'm not good at is letting go. But I'm learning. The 2 months passed quickly. Jasmine packed up her life, said goodbyes to the few friends she'd made, prepared Elijah for another transition. Their last night in Seoul, Kim hosted a dinner. Just the 3 of them, no guards or associates, just family. Elijah was excited about America, but sad to leave his father. I'll visit for Christmas, Kim promised, and summer, and any time you need me. That's a lot of flying, Elijah said. You're worth it. After dinner, after Elijah went to bed, when Jasmine and Kim stood on the balcony one final time. Do you think we would have made it work? Jasmine asked. If circumstances were different? If we'd met as normal people? Kim considered. Honestly, probably not. We're too different, too shaped by our separate struggles. But this version, this broken, complicated, violent version, it worked because we needed each other to survive. That's pragmatic. That's honest. He looked at her. But if you're asking if I'll miss you, yes, Every day. I'll miss you too. The man you're becoming anyway. The Mafia boss I can live without. He laughed, genuine and warm. Fair enough. The next morning, they left for the airport. Kim drove them personally. No convoy, no ceremony. Just a father taking his family to their flight. At the departure gate, Elijah hugged Kim fiercely. Bye. But Dad. Dad. The word landed like a punch to Jasmine's chest. When had that shift happened? When had Elijah claimed this dangerous man as father? But looking at them together, she saw it was right. Kim was his father, not perfect, not safe, but trying, growing, changing. Kim released Elijah, then turned to Jasmine. Stay safe. You too. Keep changing. Keep fighting. They shared a look that held 3 months of warfare, partnership, transformation. Then Jasmine took Elijah's hand and walked toward their gate. She didn't look back. Couldn't. If she did, she might second-guess everything. On the plane, Elijah pressed his face to the window, watching Soul disappear beneath them. Mom. Yeah, baby. Are we going to be okay? Jasmine thought about the apartment waiting in New York, the education fund, the security measures. But more than that, she thought about what she'd learned in 3 months of surviving in Kim's world. She was strong, not despite being a single black mother, but because of it. She'd faced down mafia bosses in gunfire. She'd negotiated with killers and saved hostages. She'd protected her son and helped a dangerous man find redemption. She'd surged through impossible circumstances and come out standing. Yeah, she said, squeezing Elijah's hand. We're going to be more than okay. We're going to be great. 6 months later, Jasmine stood in her New York apartment watching snow fall over the city. The space was beautiful. Brownstone in a good neighborhood, 3 bedrooms, a real kitchen. Kim's gift that she'd accepted with gratitude and used to build something new. Her bookstore cafe had opened 2 months ago, and it was thriving. A community space where she hosted readings, served good coffee, and created exactly the life she'd dreamed of before violence had interrupted everything. Elijah was in 7th grade now, making friends, playing basketball, being a normal kid. He video called Kim twice a week, their relationship growing despite the distance. Kim had visited for Christmas, as promised. It had been strange seeing him in her American world, this man who commanded criminal empires, sitting in her living room drinking hot chocolate with their son. But he'd fit himself into her life carefully, respecting boundaries, never overwhelming. He was still changing, still transitioning his organization toward legitimacy, still fighting battles in Seoul, but the violence was less, the bloodshed diminishing. He sent her updates, keeping her informed but not dragging her back into that world. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. She opened it cautiously, old instincts flaring. But it was just a photo. Kim and Uncle at some business meeting, both in expensive suits, looking more like executives than gangsters. The message below, legitimate business is boring. Miss the excitement? K. Jasmine smiled, typed back, boredom is good, keep being boring. J. Another message, Elijah's birthday next month. I'll be there. We'll be waiting. She set the phone down, looking out at New York's morning bustle. Her life was quiet now, peaceful, normal in ways she'd fought years to achieve, but part of her would always carry those 3 months in Seoul. The violence and the fear, yes, but also the strength she'd discovered, the partnership with Kim, the knowledge that she could survive anything. Her phone buzzed again, this time a voice message from Elijah's school. She listened, expecting some minor issue. Instead, the principal's voice was tight with concern. Ms. Adams, please call immediately. There's been an incident. Elijah is safe, but we need to discuss security concerns. Someone was asking questions about him at the school gate, someone who didn't seem to be American. Jasmine's blood went cold. She called the school, got more details. A man, possibly Korean, asking which class Elijah was in when school ended. Security had intervened, he'd left, but the description was concerning. She called Kim immediately. He answered on the first ring. What's wrong? She told him, heard his sharp intake of breath. I'll handle it. Stay with Elijah. I'm sending my New York people to you now. Give me 2 hours. Kim, what is this? I thought we were done. So did I. His voice was hard again, the dangerous edge returning. But apparently someone didn't get the message. They're coming for our son, Jasmine. And that was their last mistake. The call ended. Jasmine grabbed her keys, raced to the school. Her mind was already shifting back into survival mode, the peace of the last 6 months evaporating like morning fog. She thought they were free, thought the surge of violence had ended with Han's fall, but Kim's world didn't release people that easily. At the school, she found Elijah waiting with the principal, looking scared but trying to be brave. She pulled him close. Is it starting again? he whispered. Jasmine thought about the apartment she'd built, the business she'd grown, the normal life she'd fought so hard to create. Thought about running again, disappearing, starting over somewhere new. But she was done running. No, she said firmly. It's ending, for good this time. Her phone buzzed, a text from Kim. My people are outside. Let them protect you. I'm getting on a plane. Be there in 15 hours. Whatever this is, we finish it together. Together. Despite the distance, despite their separate lives, they were still bonded by battle and blood. Jasmine looked at her son, saw him watching her with that too old wisdom, waiting to see what she'd do. She thought about the woman she'd been 6 months ago, terrified, desperate, slapping a mafia boss in his office. Thought about the woman she'd become, strong enough to negotiate with killers, brave enough to charge into warehouses, was smart enough to help a criminal find redemption. That woman didn't hide from threats. She faced them. Come on, she told Elijah, taking his hand. We're going somewhere safe until your father gets here. Then we're ending this. No more looking over our shoulders, no more threats, we're done being hunted. What are we going to do? Jasmine thought about Kim's text. Together. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. The single mother who'd learned to fight and the mafia boss trying to change. She smiled grimly. We're going to surge one more time and make sure this ends permanently. Outside, 3 SUVs waited. Kim's New York security detail. Professional, armed, ready. Jasmine got into the middle vehicle with Elijah, feeling the strange familiarity of protection and danger intertwined. As they drove through New York streets toward a safe location, her phone buzzed again. Another message from Kim. Whoever threatened our son just signed their death warrant. I'm done being patient, done trying to change peacefully. They want war. I'll give them extinction. See you soon. K. Jasmine should have felt fear, should have wanted to stop him, to prevent more violence. But looking at Elijah beside her, remembering the terror in his voice when he'd asked if it was starting again, she felt only cold determination. Some battles you couldn't avoid, some fights you had to finish completely. She typed back, Bring the fire, I'll bring the gasoline, let's end this forever. J. The car merged into traffic, carrying them toward whatever came next. Behind them, New York's normalcy continued, people rushing to work, living regular lives, unaware of the war about to reignite in their city's shadows. Jasmine looked at her reflection in the window. 6 months ago, she'd left Seoul thinking she was done with Kim's world, but that world wasn't done with her. This time, though, she wasn't the same woman who'd stumbled into danger seeking protection. She was stronger, smarter, angrier, and she was done being a victim. The surge wasn't over. It was just beginning again. And this time, she'd make sure it ended with their enemies destroyed and her son finally, truly safe. Whatever it took, whatever it cost, the redemption Kim had started by protecting them, she'd finish by eliminating every last threat. Together, they'd surge through this final battle. And when the smoke cleared, no one would ever dare threaten their family again. The city blurred past as they drove toward an uncertain future, but Jasmine felt certain of one thing. She was done hiding, done running, done being afraid. It was time to fight, and she'd learned from the best how to win. The Endspur.